Well, not working on the Cummins today. We're actually working on a Duramax, surprisingly. I don't have much experience with Duramax, so it should be pretty interesting. It's right here, actually. It's a pretty nice looking truck. No rust or anything. It's runs fine. No smoke or anything. Nothing bad happening or anything like that, but the complaint is fuel in oil. And lots of it. I just checked it real quick here and it's way. Oh. I don't know how to open these Duramaxes. There we go. So the level is there, as you can see. It's supposed to be down there. So there is a lot of fuel in the oil. So today I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with this thing, because I've never really messed with Duramax as much, and I'm interested to find out how they work. Come on, camera. Because it's just a CP3 right here, the same as my Cummins, and it's a common rail engine, the same as my Cummins. The injectors are basically identical, they just, the bodies are a little different. I think the internal parts might even be the same. So I'm going to pull these valve covers off and just see if I can see any leaks through the return lines or the feed lines or maybe the injector body itself. And yeah, you guys can come along for the ride while we try to figure this thing out. Well, I've never really worked on one of these things before, so I have no idea the best way to go about this. I'm just kind of roughly looking at it now, and it looks like these coolant lines are going to have to come off to get out of the way of the valve cover, or maybe we can wiggle it out. Yeah, I think the coolant's gonna have to be drained first before we can do anything, and then rip off the air box and the intercooler pipes. And well, I just ripped this AC condenser out of the way, and allows me to get this coolant pipe out and some of these wires and stuff, and I'm just kind of working my way back here, getting stuff out of the way so I can get this valve cover off. Looks like I might have to take these fuel lines off too, and whatever this is, and then we should be able to see on this side, and hopefully the issue's on this side so we don't have to go over there, but either way. Well, I forgot to actually explain what my theory was behind this, I think. But because the fuel return lines for the injectors are under the valve cover, there's a high possibility they're just leaking through like a copper washer or something like that, straight into the valve cover and then into the oil system. Or it could be an actual injector body itself could be leaking. I'm just pulling these injector lines out right now, and let's see if I can show it. It's super dirty in there. There's a bunch of contamination. Oh man, I was like, what looking in these injectors. Look at the rear one. It's completely plugged up, 100%. No wonder the truck doesn't smoke. None of the injectors probably work at all. Yeah, they just kind of blow. I'm just kind of blowing them out with some air. That one there was super plugged, but I just blew it out with air, and because there's pressure going in and the diesel in there, kind of pushes it back out. So, I mean, that's the best I can do for now without pulling them out and rebuilding them completely. But they're gonna run a lot better just like that. So I just pulled the return line off now that we can see what's going on, and I just have some air pressure here. Let's see if we can show it here.
I think
that's the best you're gonna get here. See this camera here, maybe you can. There you go. Alright, yeah, we're definitely on the right track here. And all of them are leaking, actually. It's crazy. It's really hard to show because there's no space here, but where can I see, like, the return line is here. Oh, where's my finger? Return line is here, and then there's this like little spacer that goes to the injector, and it's not leaking here, it's not leaking here, it's leaking between the spacer and the injector. Alright, well, I got this lower valve cover off now, so hopefully I can show what the actual problem is. I mean, it's not a very good video if I don't show what's actually wrong. This is what I'm doing here. I'm just applying air to the return side, which should normally not be pressurized or have much pressure at all. Let's see what we can see here. See that? And too dark on those ones, but they're all doing that. All of them. All four on this side are doing that. So, I mean, this has a lot of kilometers. I don't know if they just, if it's common for these to just loosen up over time. I don't know. I mean, I'm a Cummins guy. I'm not a Duramax guy, so I guess I'll pull them off and just see what's going on. I don't know if that lower piece there is a part of this, or if it's separate, or what's going on. So, I mean, I wanted to do a good test before I undid these or messed with them or anything, because then it would mess with my results if I touched this and then tried to test it again. So now that I know that all of these are definitely leaking, can't make it any worse, so I'm gonna pull these off and see what it's looking like under there. See if it just needs to be tightened up or what. I don't know. Well, I just got this return line ripped off real quick, and as you can see, all of those seals are bad. Obviously, we just saw a bunch of air shoot through them. So yeah, pretty simple fix, really. I mean, that's probably really the only reason it has diesel in the fuel. This, and most likely the other side too. Because if all of those ones are bad, well, this one, pretty high chance these ones are probably bad too. So I'll have to rip this side apart too. It's not that big a deal, but at least we found the problem. And those injectors, though, I mean, they had so much stuff inside them. I don't know if I got to talk to the owner and see if he's just going to buy some new injectors, or if he wants me to just open them up and clean them out and just chuck them back in, or just leave them, or I don't know. We'll see. But as for now, definitely need some of these. Well, I'm just sitting here on my computer and I wanted to check out the difference between a Cummins injector and a Duramax injector. And look at that, they're like identical. I mean, I'm just about to check on the part numbers and see if I can use my Cummins rebuild parts inside the Duramax, but I mean, the only difference really is the body itself. So the way the fuel is connected to the injector. Other than that though, like the nozzles look the same, and all the I don't know, all the parts in both sides of the injector look all identical. Even the solenoids are the same, and I checked with my tool and it fits right on the solenoid, no problem. So yeah, I might have to just tear those injectors apart and see what they got going on inside. Well, considering all these ones are leaking, I guess we better pull the other side apart, because yeah, high chance they're going to be leaking too. So, I mean, it's not really that big a deal. It's just a lot of stuff you got to pull off these things in comparison to like a Cummins. I mean, the job would be already done and the truck would be gone by now if it was a Cummins. But yeah, anyways, now I'm gonna have to pull off like all this fuel filter, and then the ECU is mounted right here, and then look, it has like fuel going through the ECU. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I mean, I understand what they're doing. They're keeping the ECU cool because it's mounted to the engine, obviously, but yeah, it's just crazy design looking at this thing, but it doesn't look too bad. Just start pulling stuff off, I guess. And then, yeah, hopefully it's the exact same problem, and easy to find, easy to fix, and then I think I'm going to pull those injectors out and rebuild them too. I pulled this whole fuel filter ECU setup off now, and look at this, you can actually see the engine. Look, you can see there's like a valve cover under there. Pretty cool. So, now I think, yeah, I gotta take these injection lines off now. These little screws to hold these down, and then undo the injector lines from here and the rail, and then get those out of the way. And then basically just start taking these bolts out of this top valve cover, and then you get that off, and then you have to take the lower valve cover off separate. It's like, that's the top valve cover bolt, and then the lower valve cover bolts are these ones down here. These bolts, they're in there so tight, every single one, both sides, like all of my weight on the wrench to get them undone. And I'm just gonna say, if you're doing this, just take your time and clean out the little Allen head bolts a lot. Like, put your tool in and wiggle it around, and like brake cleaner it and blow it out with air, and then wiggle the tool again, and don't even try to crack it until you got this thing perfectly seated in there, because otherwise you're just going to strip these things, and then the whole job's just going to be a huge pain in the ass. I just pulled the return line off the other side there, and yeah, sure enough, same thing. You look at these seals, they're all blown out too. Missing rubber and stuff like that. And I was having a good look at them, and some of them kind of look like they're like melted. Either way, this thing has a ton of kilometers, so maybe it's just a normal, oh my god, maybe it's just normal. So these injectors here, they're just held in by one bolt here. It's just an 8mm hex, or an 8mm Allen, or whatever you want to call it. So I decided I'd pull the one out way back there, because that one was the most plugged up, so I figure I'll take apart that one first, have a look. So I got that one out of there. It wasn't too bad. I just yeah, undid the one 8mm hex, and then I screwed the injector line onto the injector, and then it just gives you like a nice handle, and I just kind of wiggled it and pulled it out. It came right out. No problems at all. It's sitting right here. And yeah, nozzles is definitely not the same as a Cummins one. It's a different size. But solenoid and stuff like that's the same. And I think the internal seal is the same too. So yeah, it doesn't even really look like this one was firing much. And if it was, it wasn't firing very well, but this one was the one that was completely plugged up. So we don't really have anything to lose here. It wasn't doing anything in the first place, so rip this thing apart and have a look what's going on in there. I just wiped down the outside of this thing and just cleaned up the seals a little bit before we get too crazy. And this is the tool I use to take apart my Cummins injectors, and it fits on there perfect. So it's definitely the same solenoid. Well, I know that anyways because it says it in the part numbers, so they're exactly the same. So now I'm going to rip this thing apart. you need to be able to hold it usually, and this like thing in my table is kind of so you can hold a Cummins injector and take it apart, but it doesn't fit, so I'm just gonna have to go out to my truck outside and put it in my vise and crack this free. Or actually, I'll take off the nozzle first and we'll have a look in there, but I'm expecting the real carnage to be up here. Well, there you go, that's how it came apart. Just pulled the hold down off, and the nozzle comes off, and two little dowel pins out of there, and then the spring and the shim and then whatever this thing is. But yeah, these pieces here are exactly the same as the ones in my 2003 Cummins, and the bottom of the nozzle here is the same size, but the end here is a little different. And I tried to pull the pin out from inside, and I mean, it moves up and down and it allows fuel to go freely and it closes off flow, but it doesn't come out. So I don't know if it's seized in there or if that's just how these ones are. So I'm gonna have to look that up. I was just about to rip this off, and then the mailman showed up, and look what we have here. Can only mean one thing, right? Well, that's exactly how the injector came apart when I pulled it apart. I didn't clean it. I haven't cleaned it at all yet, and it's not too bad at all. This injector would definitely work. I'm gonna take some close-ups soon of that of the seat for the ball, and we'll see if that's worn at all. But I mean, this injector was completely plugged with dirt in here. Here, I'll show you on one of the other ones. See, there's a bunch of dirt in there. And this one I got apart right now is completely plugged up. 100% blocked off. But I don't know, everything in the injector, everything that's important looks not too bad. And the lower part looks not too bad, except for I can't get the needle out of the nozzle. So I don't know what the deal is with that. It still works, it just doesn't come all the way out. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to flush this thing out as much as I can and see if any other gunk comes out of here, and then yeah, I might just put it back together right just like that, because if this was the worst one and the insides are not too bad, well, there's no point in ripping 8 more out and doing them, because then there's potential to wreck something else when they did work fine before I pulled it apart. The only reason I pulled it apart was to find that diesel leak, getting all the diesel in the oil. But I found that, and I'm going to be able to fix that when I put it back together. This is just kind of extra, and makes me feel a lot better that they look like this inside now. So at this point I can put this back together without replacing anything at all. Just cleaning it, put it back in the truck, and then you're good to go. Well, I just flushed this thing out super good, and nothing came out of it. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's so clean. There's nothing. Yeah, nothing came out. I did it on a fresh piece of paper towel, and there's nothing after. So yeah, I guess just put it back together and send it, because yeah, I guess I'll just blow the rest of these ones out with my air gun, like I did to that one in the first place, and it seemed to do pretty good, because I sprayed a bit of diesel in there, and then I blew it out with air, and then it sprayed it all back, and then I just did it a couple times, and I mean, I guess that must have worked pretty well, because there's nothing in there. So yeah, guess we'll put it back together and go from there. Hopefully get this thing running today. Well, yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this. I mean, you should be able to pull that needle out of there. Come on, focus. You should be able to pull that needle out of there, and you can inspect the condition of it and everything. I mean, it does move freely, like it would normally. It's kind of notchy though. It should come out though. It doesn't come out, it just only goes that far, but I tested it and it does seal up, so I don't want to pull it out, and maybe there's some dirt in there and it'll score it as I'm pulling it out, so I'll just leave it. Well, I got both sides return lines on now, and I wanted to just do the same test again with my airline, see if it holds pressure this time. and as you can see, it's holding pressure much better than it was before, and I went over and checked them all really close, and they're definitely not leaking now, so should be good to go. Shouldn't be any more fuel in the oil, hopefully. And that injector I pulled apart, it's back in there, way at the back, and all the rest of them I just cleaned out as best as I could. So hopefully this thing's good to go. I just wanted to mention, I know a lot of people are going to say you should just throw new injectors in it, and yeah, that is the right way to go about this, but just you got to remember, the guy paid less for this truck than it costs for one injector, so just take that into account. Well, piecing it back together. Fuel lines, valve covers. Valve covers. Just about to put the fuel lines on here and then figure out these glow plug stuff and just start plugging stuff in. Well, I got this thing all back together now. I didn't bother recording much. It's all just, I don't know, bolt up. It's really straightforward. You put the square in the square hole and put the circle in the circle hole. So yeah, good to go. Just draining the oil and changing the filters right now. I'm gonna put a new fuel filter on there too. I'm gonna have to pump this thing up. Probably sit here. I should have filled the filter with diesel before I put it in here, but I didn't have any clean diesel sitting around. I didn't want to put any dirty stuff in there. So I'll just yeah, finish draining this oil and get that fuel system primed, and we'll fire it up. Hopefully this thing doesn't do anything weird. Check it out. This is how much diesel this is how much oil came out of it. I think it was a little overfilled, and it's like watery, like diesel. It's not oil at all. That's crazy. Well, I wasn't expecting it to start up so easy. I just I hooked up this battery charger and it just fired right up, and I wasn't expecting it and I wasn't recording. Yeah, it didn't knock. It's not knocking, and there wasn't a puff of smoke that came out. There's nothing wrong. It's running great. So I might as well back it out of the shop and go beat on it a little bit. See if we can't break it. Well, it runs great. I just took it up the road a couple times. As you can see, no smoke. It's meeting desired rail pressure perfectly, like no issues at all. And I guess these things have a balancing rate in them too, which we can look at. So you can see they all look fairly not bad, except for number 4 is 3.1 out and number 2 is 2.1. So number 3 and number 2 would be the worst. I don't know exactly which side that is. I'm gonna have to look into that. But other than that though, I mean, a lot of trucks I've seen are worse than that, and people are driving them every day. So yeah, as you can see, the rail pressure is nice and happy. And I'll just take you for a little drive up the hill real quick here once, and then I'm gonna let the owner take it home and drive it for a couple days. And then I think I might try to tune this thing and see what we can do there. Alright, we'll just go for a little chomp up this hill real quick. Oh, whoa, it's Eco Taxi.
Come back over in front of you.
I hope not. Oh my god, dude. And go! Yeah, it runs great. It's really quiet now too. It was a lot louder before, like at idle and just driving it around here. Let me turn around real quick. Go! So yeah, as you can see, it's meeting desired rail pressure, no problems at all. Truck's running great, no codes, nothing. So I'll let the owner take it home, drive it for a couple days, and then yeah, let's tune the shit out of this thing. It's just a heat shield rattling on the exhaust. Maybe I'll have to build them a straight pipe exhaust or something, because it's really annoying. But yeah, it runs perfect. Like I couldn't ask for anything better.